I could explain this very simply by saying they reach their point of pain, but I will elaborate. But first, thank you very much for your compliments. I appreciate them very kindly, and I believe you're asking this question legitimately and sincerely. Here's the thing, and I used to utilize this when I was a personal trainer, and this will help to explain everything concisely. So, as a personal trainer, one of the things that I recognize is that a person is not going to change their eating habits, they're not going to change their exercise habits 90% of the time until they hit a breaking point, until they hit a pain point that makes them say, okay, all the bullshit aside, all the excuses aside, I'm going to do this now. I've hit a certain point of pain, misery, embarrassment, whatever it is. Husband walk away from the wife, walk away from the spouse, cheat on them. Something happened that caused them so much emotional pain that they made a 180 and changed their lives. That is the same thing that happened to people who claim that they have faith in Jesus or Brahma or Lamishka or Allah or any other deity. Is that and that's an important thing, because people of every religion have the same claim that their faith in Allah changed their life and they stopped being an alcoholic, they stopped being a drug addict, they stopped being a womanizer, they stopped cheating on their husbands, they changed their lives, and their lives are so much more productive now because they don't do none of these things anymore. So there are plenty of people on all levels of every faith who have the exact same testimony. And because of that, it invalidates the fact that any of these deities exist to be able to facilitate that very same thing. Because you cannot have the two people having the same experience yet and outcome, yet they are believing in two different deities. One deity must be true, the other deity must be false. So both cannot. So what is the common denominator? The common denominator is that person hit an emotional point that allowed them to change their mind. The encounter that they had was an encounter with themselves, and then they leaned on the teachings of there being a deity to change your life. You see, if you have a person who is say you have a man who is a womanizer, and he's a womanizer in America, then a good 80% chance that any conversion he's going to have is going to be Christianity, it's going to be Jesus. But you take that same man and let him be born in United Arab Emirates, and he's an Emirati, and he's a womanizer, and he decides to make a change. That change is going to be blamed on or credited to Allah. And if this same man is in India, he got about a 50% chance of worshiping Allah, or a 50% chance of worshiping Krishna or Brahma. So you understand what I'm saying? Depending upon where a person is born and who the family they grew up in, the community they grew up in, that determines who they have this faith encounter with, right? That's going to determine the faith encounter. So that also invalidates the idea that Jesus is just got to be Jesus, because where you're born makes a difference, makes a huge difference. Now let's get to the meat of it. If there is something that you need to change in your life, that you desire to change in your life, what I want you to do is think about the most horrific thing that has ever happened to you. And I want you to really think deeply about it. Feel it deeply. Feel it again, live it again. And then attach whatever it is you want to change in your life to that feeling. Do this meditatively over and over again until you are forced emotionally to have to change whatever it is in your life. If you haven't had something that is severely painful, then think of what would be the most severe thing that can happen in your life. And imagine that happening and feel it. And then transfer that feeling to the things that you want to change in your life. And you'll change. Usually a person starts becoming an alcoholic because their life had hit rock bottom. You got to hit the rock bottom. It would be great if people can just change their lives simply because they desire to have great things in their life. That takes a skill set. That takes training. That takes an optimistic, overly optimistic mind. I don't have to necessarily reach pain points on everything. Some things I can change in my life just because I'm like, that would be better for my life. I'm gonna make that change, and the change is made as soon as I make the decision. And and here's the thing: you can be saying you want to make the change, but it's right there where you make the decision, right? So you can talk about it, talk about it, talk about it. Boom! Whenever you make that final decision, that's when your life changes. So the only reason you see people who have what they call an encounter with Jesus, which is really just an encounter with themselves, and then they transform their lives, and then they go on to have these productive lives, is because of where they were born, and they hit a rock bottom pain point that allowed for them to change, and they credited that with whatever deity they have, because everywhere it's in the world, it might be a different person that they give credit to. But at the end of the day, the common denominator is the individual person making a decision. So make a decision today to change who you are, change your life, become the greatest version of yourself, because your greatness is non-negotiable. So you have to free yourself to be yourself, because your greatness is non-negotiable. Good journey, good vibrations.